Hello, everybody. Yesterday believe I got the edit forms working for the meshes, and I got it to where you could expand and make changes. And then today I added the ability, or after that, I added the ability to add spheres in and then I took this LinkedIn. I have actually watched and rewatched this LinkedIn Learning course on 3JS that is just a fantastic course. And and one of the tricks he has in there is he takes spheres and he gives them a basic color, and then he makes them the same color as the light. Um, and then he'll have a light and he'll add that. And in 3GS, you can actually combine these into one. I do not have it set up that way. They are independent of each other. But when you combine them in one, it's nice because you can move them around and they stay together and all that. But when I say combine them, I mean the light mesh and the light object. So I created a yellow light, and it's nice to be able to name them a yellow light, and I put it at 0, 1, 0, with one on the y axis, and then I created another yellow light. Let me go into raw. Ooh, let me close this down. Raw. I created a yellow light mesh, and I put it in the exact same spot. So then you can kind of see you have this effect of it looks like a light bulb lighting up the um, le- upper left here, and then it looks like a red light bulb up lighting up the lower right, and it's a very very dramatic effect. It's really cool. I'm glad we're there. Dang, I didn't even create a clock today. Let me do that real quick. But the So that's awesome, and it's kind of funny because um, I think at the beginning of this whole process, I would have been so blown away by this. Like this would have been like the most amazing thing ever. But let's see, we're 2 minutes in. But um, I have not, like, now I've built so much stuff in this that I'm like not impressed, just not impressed. But I should be. And the thing is that is what kind of keeps software developers employed, is the fact that no one's ever happy. I mean, the more you get, the more you want. It's like a drug or something. It's really awesome. An exciting field to be in. Anyways, this is cool. It's very dramatic. To me, it's super exciting. I think it proves the value of this tool that I've built because, you know, um, I think like a professional 3JS person could use this to sort of lay things out and just see the effect of things. Um, but obviously, there's a long ways to go on this project. But and the changes were pretty minimal um, to do this. And honestly, I think this sort of change, if I hadn't architected it fairly carefully, I think this would have been like could be like, let's say it was a 10,000 lines of code, we could end up at 20,000 lines of code to make this happen with other architectures, and we could have massive amounts of duplicate code. And I think so far it's pretty clean, so I'm pretty excited about this. But anyways, so I had to let me put it in this mode, and let me um, expand. See if I can. It's always a quite the challenge to. There we go. So I'm going to maximize that since we've seen what it does. Uh, so in the interface, I added this thing called supported meshes, and basically, and I don't, I don't think I want this right here. So basically, there's two kinds of meshes that it supports, or two kinds of geometry that it supports. So before we had, well, this didn't exist, but basically within the code we had like mesh box geometry, and then and then it could be any of these kinds of material. And so now I added box geometry and sphere geometry. Um, and then up here for our mesh interface, I said it can be a box geometry or a sphere geometry. Now that is a bit confusing because this is our light meshes. So and this is just text. This has no relationship with this other than that these words match up for convenience, but there is no actual relationship between 3JS mesh, which is a pretty intense, complex object, and this shape attribute on mesh interface, other than that we're giving the ability to make sure that they match up properly. So that will probably make sense later. Because it's pretty complicated. But anyway, so we import our mesh interface, and then let's go down to this change. Let me collapse that for the moment. So I changed from this mesh where it was pretty much directly tied to the 3JS interfaces to my own custom interface called supported meshes. So this is saying it can be an array of anything that's one of our supported meshes, which is a box geometry or a sphere geometry in normal materials. That's a lot, and it did, I won't lie, it took me probably 25-30 minutes to sit there and play around to get that to all that puzzle to all fit together so that the compiler would compile, and then once the compiler was compiling, it all made sense. So if you're kind of confused what's going on, I can see why. You'll probably have to go back and look at that interface setup and then back and forth a few times to get it. But that's, it's not easy, that's for sure. But anyway, so when we add a mesh, we by default create a geometry that's a box geometry, and then if it happens to be if the shape happens to be sphere geometry, then we create a sphere geometry. Then we create our material, and then we actually create the mesh with our geometry and our material, and it has to be one of the supported meshes. So like in the future when we add other materials or shapes, we'll have to update the supported meshes and come through and fix all that. And then here we just add logic on update, so that if you change a sphere from a sphere to a box, or a box to a sphere, this handles that. And this is pretty darn clever on the 3JS side. I'm absolutely just amazed by that library. But so instead of having to destroy the whole object, the whole mesh, you can just rip out the current geometry, and they have this function called geometry dispose, and then you can add your new geometry back in. Which, when I was kind of visualizing having to do this, I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to create a whole new mesh, and then I'm going to have to keep track of what the old materials were and and it's like, nope, 3JS takes care of that for you. You can just dispose geometry, add your new geometry, call this update matrix, and call this compute bounding box, and you're golden. And this stuff actually here I got from ChatGPT. Like, I honestly had no idea how to do this, so I just typed into ChatGPT. How do you create? How can you remove a geometry from a mesh? And it was like, yes, of course, this is how you do it. And it gave me the code. And to be honest with you, I guess I was a little sloppy because I did not actually validate that this is necessary or that this is necessary, because they might not. Sometimes ChatGPT just gives you extra code. And I probably will go back and just double check that these are actually required. I know this one's required, like how would I get it? I'm pretty sure that one's required, although I haven't checked that. But yeah, I'll probably like kind of just do this and see if the code works and doesn't work, and then try these different lines to just make sure that they work. But I do want to say that in defense of us regular human being developers, that I do not believe a non-developer would be able to wield ChatGPT, because to help or to build or even help them build 3JS stuff or anything, because you have to know the words. It's no different. It's still coding. Just because you have this extra tool that gives you help or or can maybe even like with the Copilot and those things, like they can copy what they can analyze what you've done and then find a way to copy it and share that with other developers or do it themselves. They still need to copy you originally, and someone still needs to know the words. Like there was a like I see a lot of people doing Chat GPT where they say, so I do all these videos like they're usually 5 or 6 days ahead of what I'm uploading, and today happens to be a Sunday, and I notice that I get a little like ranty on Sundays, um, but I was gonna say that um, the Chat GPT still or all these AI tools still have to have some original thing that they're copying, even if they're inventing stuff based on combining two or three things that they're copying. Um, and so I see like this example on TikTok or on YouTube all the time of people saying, ChatGPT, build me Flappy Birds in .NET. And it's like, well, you have to have Flappy Birds. Like if someone had to have invented Flappy Birds to be able to build me a Flappy Birds. And the other thing is I never ever ever see them actually compile that code. And I'm very suspicious that that code would not compile. And the reason is because if I ever copy even 15, 20 lines of ChatGPT um, code, it never works for me. I always have to tweak it to get it to work, and usually it's because there's been some sort of change or something. But I'm gonna pause this. Okay, so I only have so. Anyways, that was my rant about AI. It's kind of sad because I think that there right now that's one big reason why there's just not a lot of work in software development right now, and I think that it's going to take um, industry 3 years to figure out that the AI is not going to work for them, and then they'll have to go out and try to convince people to get back into the industry again, and they're just doing incredible amounts of damage to the industry right now. Um, I cannot see why, like a 21-year-old that's in college would ever decide to be a computer programmer right now, because of all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's in the industry. And so you're gonna lose 3 4 years of possible developers that are all gonna go into other things like accounting and things like that, finance, stuff like that. Which is like I have family members that are doing that exact thing. They are very mentally set up to be perfect software developers, but they're like there's just too much uncertainty in software development, so I'm going to go into accounting, and in accounting, it's puzzles and stuff like that, just like software development, but there's more stability in accounting. Um, so, anyways, yeah, I said I was done ranting, and I guess I wasn't. So now I'm done ranting. So, anyways, I did the interface. Now the HTML that was okay, so I had a bug. I was showing the exposition instead of the name inside the light manager. So I fixed that while I was here. I would definitely make that if I was doing this in a professional environment, that would be its own commit. You probably shouldn't try to bury commits like this in like larger commits, because the majority of this is about um, setting up the mesh management. So try not to do that. It's very confusing to other developers to do that. Same thing here. I wasn't even updating the light name. Um, so now on the form, so the light name wasn't actually, it was still showing up in the form because I typed it in there. And if I came back, the form was being maintained. But if I actually went into raw data, it wasn't showing there. So that was a bug. I figured it out. I'm just going to bury it into this commit, but I would not do that in a professional environment. Here's where I added the choose shape into the HTML form. And that was that. It is basically, we've done this 100 times. Added a select, added my choices, and all that. And last but not least, in here, okay, so here's where the transpiler broke because we added a new attribute to the mesh item interface. So I made a default of box geometry, which I think makes sense. And then in here, I had the same bug in the other one where I wasn't saving the mesh name and then this shape. So you might have noticed that the pattern that's being used to sort of do these subscriptions in here is a little bit different. It feels very significantly different, but in real life, it's just slightly different. than the one in Lights. So at some point, I need to get in here and sort of just sync those two up so that they look almost identical. So that in the future, when I come in here, I don't have to sort of relearn. Oh, okay, in this one I do it this way, and I have this updated flag, which I do not believe that's even doing anything. Um, I don't think that's necessary at all. I think what I should have is just this, all these, and then update mesh. So if you make any change in the form anywhere, all these get updated and you update the mesh. Um, but that's where we're at right now. It would definitely uh, be a good idea to get that fixed, and I probably will pretty soon. And so then I added the shape to the form, and that's about it. I am sorry, this is 5 minutes over. I will definitely try to do better next time. But in the meantime, happy coding, everybody. Bye.